I never expected that one quiet Saturday evening at a local art gallery would alter the course of my life. Working as a graphic designer in downtown Chicago, my days were filled with color palettes and creative challenges, while my nights often ended in the comforting solitude of my small apartment. Yet, as I stepped into the gallery that evening, something in the air hinted at a promise of change. Before we start, thank you for coming to my channel. Your participation is my happiness. Let me know where you are and what time it is now. Okay, now let's get into the story. The gallery buzzed with the soft murmur of conversations and the gentle hum of ambient music. As I wandered past modern installations and classic pieces alike, I found myself drawn to a collection of contemporary abstracts that pulsed with energy. It was there, amid the shifting play of light and color, that I first saw him. He stood quietly before a painting, his eyes fixed in deep contemplation. His name, I would later learn, was Edward, a distinguished art curator and professor known for his refined taste and profound insights. Despite the noticeable 20-year difference between us, there was an unmistakable magnetism in his gaze that seemed to reach out and touch something inside me. Our eyes met across the room, and in that moment the world around us seemed to slow. Before I could fully comprehend the stirring in my heart, Edward approached with a warm, genuine smile. As he extended his hand in greeting, our fingers brushed ever so lightly, a simple touch that sent a ripple of sensation through me. I recall the tenderness in his gesture when he softly kissed the back of my hand, a silent promise of care and connection. We soon found ourselves engaged in conversation, discussing the nuances of the art around us. His voice was measured and kind, each word carrying an undercurrent of passion that mirrored my own unspoken longings. In the midst of our dialogue, his hand would occasionally rest gently on my waist as if offering silent reassurance, a touch that felt both respectful and deeply intimate. As the evening wore on and the gallery lights softened into a warm glow, the spark between us grew undeniable. Parting ways felt bittersweet. Our farewell was marked by a lingering embrace that promised more than just a fleeting moment. Under the city's starlit sky, I realized that I had taken the first step toward a new horizon, one filled with unexpected passion and the possibility of rewriting my own narrative. And so, as I walked home with my heart still fluttering from his touch, I couldn't help but wonder what lay ahead on this uncharted path. Little did I know, that night was only the beginning of a journey that would challenge everything I thought I knew about love and self-discovery. Over the next few days, I found myself thinking about Edward constantly. His warm smile, the gentle way he touched my hand, and the unspoken promise in his eyes had ignited something within me, a spark I hadn't felt in years. Determined to see where this connection might lead, I accepted his invitation for a follow-up meeting at a cozy, candlelit bistro in the heart of Chicago. That evening, the soft glow of the restaurant set the stage for our conversation to deepen. Edward arrived dressed in a tailored blazer that somehow made him appear both refined and approachable. As we sat side by side at a small, intimate table, our initial conversation quickly evolved into heartfelt discussions about our dreams, past experiences, and the art that had first brought us together. Between shared laughter and thoughtful pauses, I felt the warmth of his presence drawing me closer. As dessert arrived, a delicate chocolate creation that melted slowly on my tongue, Edward reached across the table, his hand lightly resting on my forearm. The gesture, gentle yet deliberate, sent shivers down my spine. In that tender moment, our eyes met, and without a word, we both knew that our connection was evolving into something more intimate. Later that night, after the restaurant had emptied and the city's hum softened, we decided to take a stroll along the quiet streets. The cool night air was refreshing as we walked close together, our hands occasionally brushing until finally, Edward took my hand in his. Beneath the soft glow of streetlights, he pulled me into a warm embrace. Our hug lingered, and as we stood there, our hearts beating in quiet synchrony, he whispered, "I feel like I've known you forever." That was our first true kiss, a soft exploratory meeting of lips that carried all the promises of new beginnings. It was tender and unhurried, each moment stretching into an eternity as we savored the connection that had blossomed between us. We eventually found ourselves back at my apartment, where the night deepened further into intimacy. Wrapped in the comfort of shared warmth, we allowed ourselves to be vulnerable. Quiet murmurs and gentle caresses filled the space as we drifted into a peaceful sleep side by side. Waking up the next morning to the soft light filtering through my curtains, I realized that our blossoming connection was no fleeting encounter. It was a gentle, stirring awakening, a hint that life was offering me a chance to embrace love and passion once again, even when it arrived in the most unexpected of forms. And so, with my heart full of hope and a newfound determination, I stepped into this unfolding chapter, ready to discover what new horizons lay ahead with Edward by my side. Just as my heart began to settle into the gentle rhythm of my budding connection with Edward, a sudden ripple of the past disrupted our newfound peace. One crisp evening, Edward invited me to an exclusive art soiree at a renovated warehouse, a setting that promised sophistication and intimate conversation. I arrived with a mix of anticipation and nervous excitement, my mind still alight with memories of our tender strolls and soft kisses under the city lights. The atmosphere was enchanting. Soft jazz floated through the air, and subtle lighting cast a warm glow on every face. I soon found myself swept into an animated discussion with Edward near a striking modern sculpture. His eyes, usually calm and assuring, betrayed a momentary flicker of uncertainty as he glanced toward the entrance. And then she appeared, a graceful woman with an air of melancholy. Her presence filled the room with a palpable tension. Edward's ex-wife, Catherine, as I would later learn, stood quietly at the fringe of the gathering, her gaze fixed on him with a mixture of longing and regret. The sight sent a jolt through me. Every tender memory of Edward's touch now seemed intertwined with the shadow of his past. Catherine approached slowly, and before I knew it, Edward excused himself and stepped aside to speak with her. Their hushed conversation was heavy with emotion. I could see his posture tense, his eyes searching for answers in a way that made it painfully clear that unresolved feelings still lingered between them. The dramatic encounter left me with a swirl of conflicting emotions. I recalled the softness of Edward's hand on my waist, the warmth of his kisses that had so gently awakened my heart, and yet now doubts began to creep in. Was our blossoming connection destined to be tainted by echoes of his past? As I watched them converse in a quiet corner of the room, a mixture of sorrow, anger, and confusion stirred within me. Later, as the night deepened, Edward sought me out. His voice was low and filled with remorse. "I'm sorry you had to see that," he murmured, gently taking my hand in his. In that moment, his touch was tender, an attempt to bridge the gap between his present with me and the haunting memories of his past. I never meant for Catherine to reappear, and I promise you what we share is real. Yet even as he spoke, I could feel the weight of that unexpected revelation pressing on my heart. The night ended with a bittersweet embrace, a mixture of passion and uncertainty, as we left the soiree together. Walking side by side through the quiet city streets, our silence spoke volumes. The promise of new beginnings now mingled with the undeniable echoes of a past that refused to be forgotten. In that moment, I realized that my journey with Edward was about to face its most challenging test yet. A delicate dance between the tender warmth of our connection and the haunting whispers of unresolved history. Thank you for listening to the story so far. Your encouragement means a lot to me. Please comment and share your thoughts here. I love you and I am so grateful to have you on this journey with me to explore the story further. Just as the gentle cadence of my newfound romance with Edward began to feel like the start of something beautiful, an unexpected confrontation shattered that fragile peace. One brisk evening, while Edward and I were sharing a quiet dinner at his studio, a space that had become our private haven, the door swung open abruptly. There, bathed in the cool glow of the hallway light, stood Catherine, his ex-wife, her eyes glinting with determination and hurt. Before I could process the shock, Catherine stepped forward. Her voice, sharp yet laced with lingering sorrow, broke the silence. "Edward, we need to talk," she declared, her tone brooking no argument. I felt my heart pound as I instinctively clutched Edward's hand, seeking reassurance in his warmth. But the look in his eyes betrayed an inner conflict that I hadn't seen before. In a private corner of the studio, away from prying eyes, Catherine's voice dropped to a low, urgent whisper. "I never stopped loving you, Edward. Everything we shared during the war, the promises, the memories, they still live in me. I've come to reclaim what we once had." Her words were heavy with emotion and history, painting a picture of a past that refused to fade away. Edward's expression faltered as he glanced between Catherine and me. The intimacy we had nurtured over gentle kisses and tender embraces moments before now seemed overshadowed by the weight of unresolved memories. "Catherine," he began softly, struggling to keep his voice steady. I thought we were done with that chapter. Yet his gaze kept drifting toward me. A silent plea for understanding that made my heart ache with both longing and despair. Then, in a moment that felt like a cruel twist of fate, Catherine turned her attention directly toward me. "You need to leave, Evelyn," she said firmly, her tone brooking no dissent. "Edward belongs with me. He is still a part of my life. And you're an intrusion into something that should have been left in the past." Her words cut through the air like shards of glass, leaving me numb and disoriented. Tears welled in my eyes as I felt the force of her ultimatum. I had come to cherish every soft touch, every lingering kiss with Edward, moments that had sparked a new hope in my soul. Yet now, faced with Catherine's relentless demand, that hope wavered. I could see the anguish in Edward's eyes, torn between the lingering passion of our shared moments and the unresolved ties to a history he couldn't easily discard. In that charged silence, the intensity of our earlier intimacy seemed both distant and painfully fragile. I stepped back slowly, my hand still clasped in his, feeling the warmth of our connection struggle against the bitter chill of betrayal. The studio, once a sanctuary of tender rediscovery, now became a battleground for hearts caught in the web of past and present. Edward's voice, heavy with regret, reached out one last time as he whispered, "Evelyn, I never meant for any of this to hurt you." But Catherine's gaze was unyielding. With a final pained glance between us, I realized that the path ahead was now fraught with a difficult choice. A choice that might tear apart the delicate tapestry of love and longing we had so carefully begun to weave. As I turned to leave, every step felt laden with sorrow and uncertainty. That night, under the somber glow of streetlights outside the studio, I walked away with a heart full of questions, wondering if this was the end of my new beginning or merely the start of an even more turbulent journey. After that tumultuous confrontation at the studio, I found myself adrift in a sea of conflicting emotions. The echoes of Edward's tender kisses and warm embraces mingled with the harsh reality of Catherine's ultimatum. I left the gallery feeling both heartbroken and uncertain. Every step toward home felt like a retreat from the love I'd begun to cherish. Back in the quiet sanctuary of my apartment, the silence was deafening. I sank onto the edge of my bed, replaying every soft touch and gentle caress. The memory of his hand resting on my waist, the way his lips had brushed mine in a kiss that promised new beginnings. The bittersweet recollections made the space around me feel both intimate and unbearably lonely. I clutched a faded scarf he had once given me, its fabric still warm with the memory of his scent, as if trying to capture a fragment of our shared passion. Unable to find solace in the silence, I curled up beneath a soft blanket and allowed my thoughts to wander. I remembered how just hours before, our intertwined fingers had spoken a language of intimacy that made me feel seen and cherished. In that moment, I longed to feel his warmth once more, even if only in memory. I closed my eyes and let the recollections wash over me, the phantom trace of his touch imprinted on my skin as if it were real. Tears mixed with a gentle smile as I recalled the night we had spent together, the quiet intimacy of our embrace, and the feeling of drifting off to sleep in his arms. Those tender moments where our souls seemed to meet in the stillness of the early morning, now danced like fragile ghosts in the corners of my mind. The contrast between that profound connection and the cold finality of Catherine's demand made my heart ache with loss and longing. In the deep hours of the night, when the world outside was hushed by darkness and soft rain, I lay awake grappling with the reality of our situation. Every time I drifted toward sleep, memories of our quiet, shared laughter and soft, lingering kisses became my solace, a bittersweet reminder of what could have been. The intimacy we once nurtured now felt like a delicate dream slipping away in the shadow of unresolved pasts. Even as exhaustion slowly overtook me, I found no escape from the storm of emotions. I reached out for the pillow, as if trying to wrap myself in the warmth of a gentle embrace that I desperately needed. My mind wandered between tender recollections and the stark pain of being forced to choose between love and the ghosts of the past. In that fragile twilight between wakefulness and sleep, I realized that my journey was far from over. Finally, as the first light of dawn began to creep through my window, I surrendered to sleep, my body cradled by the soft sheets and my heart heavy with unspoken questions. In that solitary night, the echoes of Edward's touch and the lingering warmth of our intimacy became both my comfort and my torment, marking the beginning of a journey toward healing that I was not yet sure I was ready to face. In the days following that solitary night, a subtle shift in Edward's messages left me with an unsettling chill. What once were warm, hopeful words soon turned distant and vague. Late one afternoon, as I sat by the window watching the rain trace delicate patterns on the glass, my phone buzzed with a message that shattered the quiet promise of our budding romance. The text was brief, almost clinical. "I'm sorry, Evelyn. I have to return to my old life. I can't keep this up." My heart sank as I reread his words, the echoes of our shared kisses and gentle embraces now twisted by betrayal. It was then that I learned the truth. Edward had secretly reconnected with his ex-wife, Catherine, for reasons he now explained were rooted in unresolved obligations and the lingering pull of a past he couldn't fully escape. He had decided to return to the life he once knew. That evening I found myself standing at the familiar corner outside our favorite gallery, the same place where his tender smile and warm hand had once filled me with hope. Instead, I was met with a heavy silence. When he finally appeared, his eyes were clouded with remorse and conflict. "Evelyn," he began, his voice trembling, "I never intended to hurt you. But my past with Catherine, our history, is something I can't just ignore." In that moment, the memory of his soft touch on my waist and our quiet, shared nights became bittersweet ghosts. The intimate connection I thought was our future dissolved into a painful reality. All those tender moments were built on deception. As I turned away, the weight of his betrayal pressed down on me, leaving me to face a future where trust had been shattered and a new chapter, one defined by heartbreak and the quest for healing, had just begun. And that's it for today's story. I'd love to hear what you think. Leave a comment below and share your feelings. Did you relate to any of the characters? Or if you were in their shoes, what decisions would you make? I'd love to hear from all of you. Don't forget to hit the like button if you enjoyed the video. And if you didn't, hit one. Subscribe so you don't miss out on more great content. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Have a great day.